always excites me that this particular set of scriptures and the word he gave me this morning are really something else. The last couple of weeks I've been telling you, I hope you cannot keep from telling about Jesus and talking about Jesus. And this week we're going to see that again. Now, there's some things in here. Jesus is trying to go to town unnoticed. Now, in my own mind, I done made up my mind, y'all. You make up your own mind. He was tired and trying to get away from the crowd. Now, if you read the chapter right before that, you'll see he really was just coming out of a great work. And so, that was impossible, wasn't it? And y'all, the thing, part of what always gets me about this is we really have no concept of what it would have taken for the news that he was coming to town to get to town. They didn't pick up the phone and call the next town. You know, they didn't have texting. Somebody from the town before would have to see the direction he was going, and there would have been, you know, a town at the end of that direction. It wasn't a town every, you know, couple of miles. I mean, you would go from a town several miles to another town. And so whoever was in the first town would have to run ahead and tell everybody what was coming. Y'all, does that sound familiar at all? We have been in Jesus' town. We've got to run ahead to where he's going next and tell him he's coming. How fun is that? I mean, we get to do that, y'all. I have been the bearer of bad news so many times in my life. When I get to tell somebody something good, it just tickles me. And so we see that as soon as he's they said he had left the town he was in and was going to the next town trying to be unnoticed. But immediately, verse 25 says, but a woman whose little daughter had an unclean spirit immediately heard about him. Now, y'all, I can tell you today that when you're desperate and looking for an answer, when you hear it's there, you're going to go immediately to where it is. And so, good news travels fast, right? And y'all, the good news should travel faster than anything. If we looked around even in our towns, even in our neighborhoods, we can see areas, pockets, I mean, where the good news needs to go. People might not just be, you know, living holy, ungodly lives, but they may be down, they may be sick, they may be hungry. We can see a need everywhere we look. And so here she is in verse 25b says, and she came and bowed down at his feet. Now the woman was a Gentile from Syrophoenician origin. I didn't say that right, I'm sure. She begged him to cast the demon out of her daughter. Now, y'all, this woman didn't have any reason to know who Jesus was. We've already established that she was a Gentile, that she would not have generationally been told the story of Jesus and his coming over and over and over, yet she did. See, here's the thing. When you're on the outside looking in, you still can tell fake from the real thing. When you have a need that you have done everything you can do to take care of yourself, and you see the possibility of it being fixed or being handled, you recognize that. She begged him to cast the demon out of her daughter. Now, y'all, I don't know about, I'm just the aunt, right? I'm just the aunt. And so if there's something wrong with one of my kids, I am up in arms until I can find a way to get it fixed. If they're sick, I want to know what to do for them. If they're hurt, I want to comfort them and make it anything life, I want it to be easier. I cannot get my mind around how my sister feels. You know, both boys were preemies. Both boys, she had to come home from the hospital and we had to go to the hospital to see. And there's not a single picture of either of the babies until they're 6 months old. She said, I refuse to remember the worst part of my life. I'm going to remember these boys healthy. I'm going to remember being able to hold them in my arms, not take pictures of my hand through a hole. Honey, we'd go to that hospital and I'd lean down and there was that little hole and I'd pray into that hole. I'm not kidding you. They must have thought we was crazy. The little baby next to Jeff died. And the whole time they were working on it, me and Donna, it just happened to be our turn. We stood praying over that baby. We weren't scared. We prayed out loud. I can't imagine the desperation this mother felt. Because I've been desperate as just an aunt. And I know everybody in here has been just that desperate over a loved one, over a parent, over a child, over a niece or a nephew. And so here this woman comes in and she says, hey, would you please? My daughter needs your help. She knew he was to be honored because she bowed down at his feet. She knew he had authority. See, that's what you do when someone has authority. You bow to that authority. And so here we have to ask ourselves, do we have that same faith, y'all? Have we become so familiar with who Jesus is in our lives that we forget the authority that he has? That we forget that he's to be bowed down to? See, he's still sitting on the throne at the right hand of the Father, forever interceding on our behalf. He's our advocate. He has all authority. So, she's asking. She's asking for this need to be fulfilled. And I hope that you're asking for your need to be fulfilled in every situation. Y'all, there's times when we just want to be incognito, isn't it? I'm telling you, I laugh and Donna laughs. Years ago, I didn't like people. I mean, everywhere I went. I was at the hospital visiting somebody one time, and this lady was walking down the hall with that thing with the drip bag, whatever it's called, that IV dolly. She stopped. I, in my infinite wisdom, saw her crying, and I said, oh, I'm so sorry. Can I help you with something? I thought she needed something, and she just hugged me and sobbed. I didn't know what to do. So when she got done sobbing for a minute, Donna's just standing there looking. We're waiting to go to where we're supposed to be going. I said, can I pray for you? And she said, please do. My baby's dying. Y'all, and you're thinking, you know, why are we having all these stories today? Here's the thing, because we get to be Jesus everywhere we go. We don't go anywhere incognito either, can I tell you? Everywhere we go, there's a need. There's been a need at Kroger. There's been a need at Walmart. There's been a need at the mailbox. I know we get tired, y'all, because we just seems like people are drawing from us from every area. I mean, they draw from our time. They draw from our emotions. They draw from our finances. They draw from every area of our lives. And yet, when we get to the next town, trying to get a little rest, guess what? Immediately, someone hears we're there and has a need. Oh, y'all, let's be prepared. Let's be prepared. We didn't see Jesus turn her away because he was too tired. He said, let the children be fed first, for it's not fair to take the children's food and throw it to the dogs. Now, y'all, that's hard. That's kind of harsh. And Jesus is using some pretty strong language here. But let's don't get caught up in thinking that Jesus, I mean, I've even heard people preach, that Jesus was degrading, that's what he thought of women. No, let's get this straight today. He was talking, they didn't have dogs in the house like we have. A dog was a wild dog that they would try to keep outside of the city with everything else that was an outcast. Remember, if you had something wrong with you, if you had any kind of seeping sore, you had to go outside the city. You didn't get to stay with everybody else. And so, unlike at my table, my poor dogs don't beg, and I don't know how they know it's the last bite, but they know they're getting the last bite, and they'll come and sit under the table when it's their turn to get a bite of food. They don't come and beg the whole time I'm eating. So what he's saying here is, I haven't come to you yet. I've come to the people within the city. I've come to the children of the Most High God. I've come to see if they're going to receive me. Not to the outcast, to those things that are not thought highly of. And so, but she is not going to be undone, y'all. She said, "Sir, even the dogs under the table eat the children's crumbs. What is dropped is fair game." That's how we'd say it in Arkansas. My dogs are so bad. They won't, unless you tell them they can eat it, they won't eat off the floor. I was always afraid someone would try to poison them, or that we'd drop a pill or something and they'd snatch it up. And so that wasn't the case with these dogs. They would come into the city, and anything that was left out, they would eat if they could get in the gates. And so that's what she's saying. Even the crumbs, even what y'all have discounted as no good, the dogs get to eat. Can I tell you that a little bit of Jesus is everything you need? A crumb that has fallen down that nobody else has noticed is all you need. She knew that. Do we know that? Oh, I can just hear her, y'all. She's all in on this thing. I mean, she is all in. And I can just hear her saying, "I know you're able to do this, but will you? I've heard about you. I've heard about your compassion. I know who you are. So I know you can, but will you?" And y'all, I didn't just make that up. Look, we can go on over right here to the leper in Matthew. He said, "Lord, if you are willing, you can make me clean." Now, we'll just do the whole thing. Matthew 8, 1 through 4. When Jesus had come down from the mountain, great crowds followed him. Now look, he had gone up to the mountain to pray and be alone with the Father, right? So he comes down and there's the crowd. We're not getting away from it, y'all. And he says, and there was a leper who came to him and knelt before him, saying, "Lord, if you choose, you can make me clean." He stretched out his hand and touched him, saying, "I do choose, be made clean." Immediately the leprosy was cleansed. Then Jesus said to him, "See that you say nothing to anyone, but go show yourselves to the priest and offer the gift that Moses commanded as a testimony to them." Y'all, we see in this set of scriptures another interaction of Jesus with someone that he shouldn't be interacting with. He especially shouldn't have been touching a leper. I mean, it was highly contagious. They had to sit outside of town. And the crazy thing is, they would all sit out there together, and they would just reinfect each other. So it was a strange case for someone to be cured of the leprosy and be able to go to the temple and prove to the priests that they were clean and be able to rejoin society. So this wasn't just a matter of getting rid of the boils and the sores and the misery of the physical results of having leprosy. This was a restoration of this man back to life. Oh, don't miss it. He was restored back to life. We were restored back to life. We might as well have had leprosy. We are clean. We've been restored back to that life, back to the relationship with the Father. And we get to go tell about it. Oh, y'all. Jesus interacts with those that society says he has no business interacting with. He said, Jesus, if you will, I know you can. And y'all, this should be our statement in every situation in our lives. I know you can. Will you? And look, the answer is not always going to be yes. Please don't misunderstand me today. I'm not saying that if you've not gotten the answer you wanted to a prayer that your faith wasn't strong enough. That is a lie from the pit of hell. Our faith can be strong and our prayer can be answered in a way differently than we wanted it to be answered. I was making plans to bury my dad and my mom dropped dead. I had already felt in my spirit the change coming. I had steeled myself for what I knew was going to happen. But what happened was not what I was planning for. We don't know why he does what he does, how he does the things he does, and when he does the things he does. Jesus' compassion was engaged when this woman came to him in her desperation. He then said to her, for saying that, you may go. The demon has left your daughter. Now, y'all, let's look. Jesus healed this in two entirely different ways. He touched the leper and healed him, and then sent him to be restored by the priest. He didn't even speak about the daughter anywhere in these scriptures. He spoke to the mother and he said, okay, you can go, it's done. The demons left her. And look, she just had to take that on face value, y'all. I mean, imagine that. She had to believe what he said was true because she wouldn't have the proof of it till she got home. So she went home and found the child lying on the bed and the demon gone. Sometimes we just have to know that what he said is what has happened. He didn't give her any long, drawn-out speech. Oh, yeah, you know, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that and then it's going to happen. No. Sometimes we have to step out in faith and believe. So, verse 31, then he returned from the region of Tyre and went by way of Sidon to the Sea of Galilee in the region of Decapolis. They brought to him a deaf man who had impediment in speech, and they begged him to lay his hands on him. Now look, Jesus left the area and went another direction. He still had not found the place to rest. We can run all we want to, but we're going to run smack dab into what we think we're running from. He still came face to face with the need. Now, y'all, we're going to find that same thing at times in our lives. In this present time, everywhere we go, everywhere we look, we're going to see need. And we're going to need to be shored up in our relationship in order to meet that need. Not in ourselves, but in the power of the Spirit that works in us. In the power of our relationship with Jesus Christ. Now, Don and I laugh, and y'all, I hope y'all appreciate this as much as we do, because sometimes we'll say stuff like, you know what? I'm just going to go tell Pat. Now, we know that whatever we go to Horseshoe and say, he's got an answer for us. He's got the knowledge, the wisdom, the experience. Well, the other day, we were talking, and poor Teresa, I have not really done this, but I said, you know what? I'm going to find, I love mums. I said, I'm going to find the mums I want, and then I'm going to draw a picture of the flower bed and get Teresa to tell me if it'll work. Like, she doesn't have anything to do but look at my flower bed drawing. But listen, I know that sounds kind of funny for me to be talking about today, but she has the knowledge. She has the experience. She has the compassion and the love of people that I wouldn't have to be afraid that I'd be rejected when I went to her. I've never felt like there wasn't a time, I mean from the very beginning, that I could go to Pat and ask anything, or, you know, I'm not sure that I hadn't squalled a couple of times talking to Pat, bless his heart. Y'all, we have expertise in the area of the compassion of Jesus Christ because of how He has done us. So please don't be surprised that people are going to come to you and try to draw on that expertise. But look, if they weren't ever learning, if they weren't ever working, I mean, Teresa's working on flower stuff year-round. Pat didn't sit down when he retired. He can still tell me how the farm works and what it's doing and the new chemicals. And look, if we're not renewing our experiences with Jesus Christ and our knowledge and our relationship with Jesus, we're going to get a little low. And we're going to get a little wore out. And we're going to have to get refilled because people are still going to be coming. The need is still going to be there. Now look at how Jesus healed the deaf mute man. He took him aside in private, away from the crowd, and put his fingers in his ears and spat and touched on his tongue. Then he looked up to heaven, he sighed, and said to him, Ephphaphah, that is, be opened. Now y'all, I contend that Jesus pulled him aside because of two things. They were trying to try Jesus and see that he would fail on some big, huge thing. And they wanted it to be a spectacle. They wanted to see the signs and the wonders. And remember, Jesus had already told them, look, you're a den of vipers. All you want to see is some big old show. I'm not here for a show. I'm here to heal folks and to give them hope. And so and we see that he looks up to heaven, and because that's where the power still comes from, y'all. That's where Jesus got his power. That's where we get our power. And we have to acknowledge where that power comes from. And so he healed this man in private, in what we would think is a crazy way. Now, we just saw him not even have to really speak to the demon. He just said it was gone, and it was gone. We saw him touch the leper, and the leper was cleansed by the touch. Well, now, I don't really believe that the only way this could happen was for Jesus to stick his fingers in the guy's ears, spit on his hand, and touch his tongue. I don't think that's what had to happen, but that's what he did. And look here, y'all. If you've ever had any experience with anyone that was deaf or mute or both, you know that if they have been deaf, mute from birth or from a young age, their vocal cords and their tongue and their face muscles did not form properly, and they never speak plainly. Oh, see, he was restored completely as if he had never been disabled. Y'all, we were restored completely as if we were never heathens. As if we were never disabled by the fact that we did not have Jesus Christ in our hearts. And that's what we get to take forward into the world with us, day in and day out. We've been made whole. And in our wholeness, we have plenty to give out to others. Then Jesus ordered them to tell no one, but the more he ordered them, the more zealously they proclaimed it. They were astounded beyond measure, saying, "He has done everything well. He even makes the deaf to hear and the mute to speak." In Arkansas language, y'all, he did it. He did the impossible. Can you believe it? Oh, we got to tell about this. We're so overwhelmed with what all he can do, we can't shut up. So again, let me encourage you today. I hope everywhere you go, Jesus spills out of you. I hope that it is so strong in you that you can't hush. Walk in the compassion of Jesus, the power of the Holy Spirit, and tell everybody the good news. There is hope. There is a way. There is life. And as we go from here today, my prayer is that he'll go with you everywhere, in every situation. Lord, I ask that you keep your hand of protection over them, your hedge of protection round about them. Let your face shine upon them and your blessing chase them down and overtake them. Let your favor go before them, Lord.